Hello, friends. Welcome inside, at least for me, Ben Garrett, the Riverland Roofing Studios, that little house up top. Riverland Roofing for all your roofing needs. 662-644-4297, riverlandroofing.com. Also, our thanks to Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford, our presenting sponsor, online at allensamuelsoxford.com. Call them today for your next car, truck, or Jeep, 662-234-8000. He's Zach Berry, Kevin Scarbinsky of the Birmingham News coming up in just a little bit. But first, Zach, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. We have got 2 more days until school starts back up.
Oh, y'all aren't in yet? We're in. We've been going since last week.
No, yeah, so that's why we did the last minute, or not last minute, but the beach trip right before school started. My oldest starts on Wednesday, so.
Well, good for y'all. Good that they got to start a little bit later. Emily had to go back on Monday, and actually the week before that had to get a room ready, and then last week students had to return. They did a staggered entry, and they're now over at New Albany Middle School, New Albany Elementary School, and Zach's crew. They start up here soon. Man, I'm telling you, I'm a big proponent. I'm getting further and further along this way about year-round school with the 2-week, 3-week breaks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These days they don't even get enough of a break anymore, but hey, look, we get a break. We get to do this for a living. This is the best thing in the world to get to do. How you doing, man? I hadn't talked to you on the pod for a minute.
Yeah, been good. Little night set down on the Emerald Coast, and it was a great week. It was actually the first time we had done a solo family beach trip. We've always either gone with other families or my parents, but it was great. Work didn't stop while we were there, though. We got some stuff to talk about with some basketball recruiting. And I got a little bit of a hot take for you that we can chew on and talk a little bit.
Well, that's what I love to hear. If you're going to come on Talk of Champions, bring the takies. Bring the hottest of the hot takes. That's what we need. At _revolution. How's it going, Ben and Zach? Going well. Happy Monday to all y'all in the chat. All y'all watching, whether it be on Twitter or on the Ole Miss Spirit message board, olemispirit.com, affiliate of On 3. This QR code right here by my head. So many of y'all come up to me and Brad. I'm sure Zach gets it too. And when you see us in public, y'all talk about how much you love what we're doing with the show, with Talking Champions. How can we help? This is right here the best way to do it. New members to the Ole Miss Spirit can scan this QR code here, right here on your screen, right beside my head. Can scan it and get the Ole Miss Spirit for $30 for your first year. $30 for the whole year, which is typically like $100 and something. $30 comes out to like $2.49 per month. And all you got to do is scan the QR code and join the Ole Miss Spirit. That's omspirit.com. Join the Ole Miss Spirit. That's the way to help us the most. Come and join the largest growing online Ole Miss community there is, the Ole Miss Spirit. We'd love to have you. This is the way. We're not asking for Venmos. We're not asking for donations. We're not asking for nothing. We're asking you to join us at the Ole Miss Spirit. $30 for a year, $249 a month if you take advantage of this deal right now as a new member. So it's going well at the _revolution. Glad to see you. Sawyer Wheatley's talking about the back to school cut. Zach, did we get a haircut?
No, I mean, it's just, the remnants of the previous cut that I got a couple weeks ago. So it's still a little, I guess still a little short. I'll probably get cut up this weekend just to kind of, get some things squared away. Got to look good for when I'm on ESPN when Brentwood Academy travels to Baylor in a couple weeks.
You'll be there, right?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Heck yeah.
I think a lot of people, it's 1 versus 2 to open the season. 1 versus 2 in Tennessee, I should say. I think Brentwood Academy is going to give them a game too. I don't think it's going to be a pushover. Brentwood Academy, I think all of a sudden woke up and figured out like, hey, we got to start recruiting again. And because if we want to compete with Baylor and McCallie, we got to start stepping it up. It's going to be a hell of a game. Keegan Croucher looked pretty good over the weekend in the scrimmage against Buford. It's there's a lot of 28 prospects on that team too. I wrote about Braxton Rain over the weekend, or last week, I should say. Chad Simmons believes Ole Miss is in the best spot for him right now. I will be there to see him. Xavier Bowman, a 28 corner. He played well in that scrimmage against Buford. There's a lot of talent on both of those sidelines, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, so let's play a little thought exercise because we're gonna be getting a hot take apparently from my guy Zach Berry later. Dakota King, my guy in the chat's already dropping some hot takes. My friend Alex Bryant says God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. Alex is awesome. Actually works in law enforcement here in New Albany, and you need to tell your boy Jimmy Edwards over there at the sheriff's office. I got some questions, man, because some smoke shops were raided around town the other day, and like, man, some people I've been hearing nothing but like, my smoke shop, I can't get into it now. And they got some explaining to do, but not Alex Bryant. He's the absolute best. Dakota King, hot take, Kentucky beats LSU. I saw where Brian Kelly was doing his predictions on how LSU will do in the upcoming year. He had them starting, and before I cut it off, because it's Brian Kelly and his voice sounds, it sounds like, I don't know, it's just grating. It's very
family.
Family. I can understand how some think my voice is grating. Because, like, when you hear a voice that is grating, it's hard to get it. Brian Kelly, I can't get it out. I can't get it out of my system. Family. Dude, the code switching used to be.
I wonder if his accent's going to change a little bit now that his son is on staff at Ole Miss. So he might do like a Mississippi twang instead of Louisiana. I don't know.
Walk through the team finger and going, guys, I'll tell you, he can't dip and talk. You know what I mean? Yeah, he try because that's what he does. But he had him 4-1. He had LSU losing to Ole Miss if Trinidad Chambliss does what he to do. Losing to Kentucky, I don't.
Hey, look,
Will Stein's I like me some Will Stein. Do I think that's gonna play out? I don't know, but
we'll see.
The hot take. What is your hot take? It's killing me. 6 minutes
depends. The Kentucky LSU game will hinge on whether or not Lane is in Dallas for the entire week. If he is, there's a good chance that Kentucky could win. Mm-hmm. I don't hate that, by the way. I think Kentucky's going to sneak up on one or two people this year. A lot of buzz coming out of Lexington, man. They are fired up. Look, new coach, it's always exciting, but I think Will Stein is someone who could have some success in this league. Now, I'm not saying Kentucky's going to, be a football school all of a sudden, but I do think he's going to sneak up and get somebody. It might be LSU.
Well, have you watched any of the videos? This is an LSU podcast. I'm not doing it. I'll just simply say the Sam Levitt doubters, critics out there, of which there are two currently talking to you on Talking Champions. He's not running from the allegations from some videos I've seen recently. You know what I mean? He's got something to prove. That's all I'm going to say about that. What are we hearing from Do Right in the chat? What are we hearing about Cunningham? Man, it's every single podcast. Everybody wants to know about Caleb. There's nothing to report. He's just not where he needs to be. Samari Reed's ahead of him right now.
I think it also healthy. Yeah, I think it also has a lot to do with the room. I mean, I think that we're gonna talk position groups in a little bit. I think that wide receiver room is sneaky good, and there's a lot of upperclassmen ahead of him. And he was hurt. He missed a lot of time last year. He's got a lot of catching up to do. But there's not really an update. I think you've got Deuce Alexander, you got Horatio Fields, you got Jonte Cook. I mean, there are guys ahead of him that are older, that have played. He's still young. I mean, people forget that, he's still only a sophomore. I mean, this isn't going to be there's not a lot of Jeremiah Smiths growing on trees out there. So it takes a special dude to walk right in and play. Elijah Moore did it a couple years back. That's a special kind of player to be able to do that at a high level in the SEC. It's not a knock on Cunningham. It's just them's the breaks.
The only knock on him is that there hadn't been behavioral stuff, but it's like, how serious you taking football? How serious do you want it? How much do you really want it? And the durability and injury stuff, that's really out of his control. All right, that's not. But there are some things that he could clean up and get better with that I think they would like to see. But right now, if you're asking for an update on Caleb Cunningham, I'm not really factoring him in as far as who's going to be catching passes primarily from Trinidad Chambliss in game one. But remember, Dejon Stribling wasn't catching passes primarily from Trinidad Chambliss to start last year. It was Austin Simmons and Harrison Wallace and Austin Simmons, Caden Lee even. But I think Caleb could factor in. He just got steps to take. Right now, if I'm handicapping how the wide receivers are played out, and I want to get your take on this because I'm dying to know this hot take of yours. I'm dying to know. So let's just jump right into it because my guy Dakota King has a hot take. He says that DGG is going to flip and Caden Moss stays put. Caden Moss stays put if his girlfriend goes to Ole Miss, and because like mom and dad, the girlfriend situation is weird. If she ends up not going to Ole Miss or whatever, Caden Moss, I would expect of those two to flip. I'm not getting into all the girlfriend stuff, but the bottom line is, it's like a lot of I could much more easily see Caden flipping than DGG. So leading into your hot take as we start the show with hot takes with Zach, I got Kevin Scarbinsky coming up talking with Brad, but right now it's me and Zach. We got some recruiting stuff we want to hit on. All right, thought exercise, and this is where I was going before we already got off. If you had to have one to build your future college football program around, you only get to pick one of the two Baylor teammates. It's either Keegan Croucher or DGG. Say you're Kentucky. You get one of them, right? One of them to potentially build out of what has been mired in the wilderness for you. Who would you take, Zach Berry?
So you're asking me if I was Will Stein?
If you were Will Stein or whoever, like you're a coach who took over a program that you're pretty much starting from scratch. All right. You've got no obligations as far as how you spend your NIL money. You have nobody telling you what is right and what is wrong, but you can only really afford one of them.
Mm-hmm. I would go with
okay.
Yeah, I'm going Keegan Croucher. I'm going quarterback. I think quarterback is easily the most important position. And look, a lot of people are going to say, well, if you're just going to say that because he's an Ole Miss commit. No, that's not diminishing what David Gabriel George is and what he could be. I mean, I think he's someone who could play as a freshman. But I think the quarterback position is so important. I mean, that's why Ole Miss is in the mix right now for getting back to the college football playoff. That's why Ole Miss is getting a lot of buzz for, going 11-1, 12-0. Some people think that Ole Miss has a chance to win the national championship. It's because of Trinidad Chambliss. And Kejuan Lacey is a big part. I think some of the revamped rooms around the offense and defense are a big part of that. I think you could go as far as to say Pete Golding's mindset and how he has run this program since taking over is a big part. But the main component of why Ole Miss is in that conversation is Trinidad Chambliss. The quarterback is important. You have to have a quarterback. It doesn't matter what you have on defense. It doesn't matter what you have in the backfield. Quarterback is the trigger man. He is the one that is touching the ball on every single play, barring being out of the game for a Wildcat scenario or whatever. I take the quarterback.
Wild Rebel. You mean the Wild Rebel?
Yeah.
What one Houston Dale Nutt tried to run. Wild Rebel.
I'm going quarterback. And just also from people that I've talked to, when I was at Elite 11, I talked to a lot of people on and off the record. People rave about him. They rave about it just on the field, but then off the field. Like he's a kid that's essentially been away from home for 3 years. He went to Cheshire Academy. Now he's at Baylor. He's not at home every day. I think he's a kid that's matured already. I think he's already used to that grind, that lifestyle. He is someone that loves football. You were talking about, when you question players, how much do you love the game? How much do you love the grind? He is someone that thrives and he really enjoys it. I think people are. I'm not going to say anything about the ranking. The ranking doesn't matter, but people want to see a 5-star quarterback. I think he has a 5-star tool set. I think his skills, what he can do at the quarterback position, is going to make Baylor a much better team. And that's not a knock on Briggs Cherry. Last year, he was a great quarterback. He signed with Louisville for a reason. But I think what Keegan Croucher can do under center is going to only make Baylor even more dangerous and even more prevalent in the national rankings. I think that you go with Keegan Croucher because of the position and how important the value is at that position. And I think that he brings plenty of it. And I mean, people rave about him. People that know way more football than me, people that are agents, are scouts, have been on college staffs, have been in, professional organizations. They say that he's got the it factor. A lot of people said that about Chambliss last year, and that was why he was so special and how he transitioned so easily.
I find that to be such lazy, canned analysis, the it factor. I can't really describe it. It's just he has it. I hate that.
Sometimes the cliches work, man. And
yeah, if you don't know how to describe them, here's the thing. I agree with you pretty much 110%. It has nothing to do. Like DGG is a luxury item for the best programs out there that are already built. If you're rebuilding a program, and that's the hypothetical we're throwing out here, you of course go with the quarterback, the projectable quarterback, and upside of the quarterback because it's the most important position. But if you're telling me Ole Miss could only have one in this recruiting class, Keegan Croucher or DGG, I would probably pick DGG because I would like, well, Deuce Knight might be the quarterback and Keegan Croucher's a year or two away and they're closer to contention and that might put them over the top. That's why it made no sense for the Raiders to draft Ashton Genty at 6 overall because that does nothing really for a real rebuilding program at all. It's a luxury item for programs that are already built, generational talent or not. And DGG is a generational talent without a doubt. Generational talent. Ole Miss still wants him. He's committed to Tennessee. They'll continue to recruit him. But if you're rebuilding, it just depends on where you are. Like if you're Tennessee, right, and it came down to it doesn't go well this year, and it's either go get a transfer quarterback, but man, you got to dip into what can we do? How can we get some money? And you had to sacrifice DGG. You have to do it because it's almost roster building malpractice to build around a running back luxury position, the most luxury position in football, regardless of the generational talent that is DGG. And I would love to see him at Ole Miss. I think he would be an insane plug-and-play replacement for Kejuan Lacey. But if you're going with just one, and you're stripped to the studs and you're starting fresh, you're going to go with the quarterback. And I'm not sure Keegan Croucher couldn't be potentially Ole Miss's first developed homegrown quarterback since who? Think about it. It's been a while. Matt Corral.
Yeah. Talking about non-transfer.
Yeah, I'm talking about signed out of high school, developed and played. It's Matt Corral and who?
I mean, you could go, he transferred.
It gets hard, buddy.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
Bo, you had Chad, you had Jordan Tiamu, you had Jackson Dart.
Yeah. Austin Simmons was Austin Simmons was
signed and developed, but he's at Missouri now.
Yeah, so he was
so
the
it would
one,
be Jevin Sneed, but even Jevin Sneed wasn't signed out of high school. Jevin was a transfer from Texas back then when transfers weren't even a thing. When's the last time was it Eli? Then Matt Corral?
Nathan Stanley.
Thank you for making my point. Raymond Cotton. Yeah. Trey Fryfogel's got it. It's Eli. There's been one Ole Miss homegrown quarterback, Matt Corral, since Eli. A damn good one. But here's the hard truth about Matt Corral. Matt Luke, if he had not been fired, Matt Corral was transferring out of here. Lane Kiffin, he made Matt Corral in many ways. Because it was like Matt Corral and Elijah Moore. That was it. Those were his playmakers. And then he brought in Kenny Yeboah, added some other pieces, Dontario Drummond. There's some things that happened. But Keegan Croucher could be the first or the second quarterback since Eli Manning that is homegrown, signed, and developed to start. And I think he's the best starting place as far as high school signings at quarterback that Ole Miss has had since Eli. And that includes Matt Corral because Matt Corral was only about 5'11", 6 foot at best. Keegan Croucher is like he was built in a football factory.
Yeah, it was going to be Shea Patterson. We all know what happened with that.
Yes.
But, the thing for me that's when I was at Elite 11, the finals, I think that event is so good because you can go and you can watch everybody and see how they react to coaching, see how they react to adversity. There are times, they are harsh. When they're doing the rail shot challenge, they're not mincing words. If it's a bad throw, they're telling your ass to get out and go to the back of the line. And there were kids at the Elite 11 finals where it affected them. where they were pressing after. They were hanging their head. They were getting mad. They were getting upset. I thought that Croucher from day one to the very end, he was extremely coachable. He handled the adversity because he would probably tell you too. He had a terrible throw in the rail shot and immediately was told to get out. I thought from day one to day two, he made a huge jump. And I heard it from a lot of other people. He looked really good in like the Skelly when there's just, quarterback, wide receiver, they're running routes against defenses. I thought he looked really good in that. So to me, that's one of the bigger parts of Elite 11. Forget about the challenges, forget about the height, weight, forget about what you look like, how good you throw the ball. I think that especially for a quarterback, between the ears as a quarterback is so important, and he's got it. So I'm anxious to see him at Baylor because I do think he's going to play a lot better competition than he did at Cheshire Academy. They're playing a national schedule. They're going to play some big time programs, and you come out the gate week one playing against someone that you just beat in the state championship game, and you might face them again in the championship game. So we're going to find out a lot pretty early on with Croucher, and I'm excited to see how he looks and how he reacts. And being on that big stage on ESPN, we're going to find out a lot pretty quick.
My friend Robbins dropped Ethan Flatt. Oh, I'll never forget old Ethan Flatt starting in Wyoming. My freshman year at Ole Miss, coming off the 2003 season, 10 wins. Michael Sparlock, who's now on staff.
Remember 5-star Robert Lane? Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go.
Yep. There you go.
5-star. People forget. Yeah.
Here's a question from @BrettFord4032. Take off the red and blue glasses, Ben and Zach. Who has the more difficult week one opponent, Ole Miss or LSU? Ole Miss. I would rather face Clemson than Louisville on game one in 2026.
I'd say LSU has a tougher game.
Make your case, sir.
I mean, I'll make all the jokes you want about Dabo. He's still a ball coach. I think Clemson's in a much better spot than Louisville right now. Louisville's got to find – they've got a brand new quarterback. I know Clemson's having to get a new quarterback going as well, but I think Clemson – that's the thing that's been kind of constant with Dabo teams is they always have talent on the defensive side. And I also think if we're going to factor in the opponent, we're also going to factor in the team. Because LSU's got to find they have a quarterback too. They have a brand new quarterback as well. So and I like you said, I'm a doubter. I watched that game when Sam Leavitt threw for 80 yards against Mississippi State last year.
Come on,
it's not good. And I thought it was hilarious when Lane came out and was applauding Sam for coming off the injury and looking to be, Lane Kiffin as I think it was my boy Ben Woodhouse maybe, or maybe Austin Gray, I can't remember, of Legal Gambling Council fame. One of them said, Lane Kiffin, famous for talking about injuries and being honest. Yeah, I mean, he's talking through the media. He's telling the folks down there what they want to hear. He's probably also trying to hype up Sam Leavitt a little bit. Because look, regardless of how the surgery went, regardless of how you feel, you still got to go out and perform. And that Lisfranc is something that can really be devastating and can really have some long-lasting effects. Now, I'm not saying Sam Leavitt's going to just be absolute trash and suck, because Lane is good. He's good at getting quarterbacks ready.
He's a quarterback coach, man.
And he's good at getting the best out of them. I mean, the dude had Jake Coker cooking at Alabama.
Man, I'm still a hardcore like Jake Coker defender. Like, I still think he had some juice. I know that's probably crazy. Sawyer Wheatley's asking in the chat. He said, "Hey, do y'all see the slide video?" Who hasn't seen the slide video? Here it is.
Look, man, if we're talking power rankings, if we're talking power rankings on which college football coach has to make it about them at every single moment, it's Dabo Swinney.
Oh no, it's Lane number one.
Well,
he takes his social media break and then he runs off and posts shirtless thirst traps on Juice's account. I just want to do one thing real quick because
Did you see the picture of him posing with a gar?
Yeah,
on a boat. Like, somebody's got to tell him that's not a fish that you post a picture with.
Can I just take a minute and defend this, though? The slide in the office. Like, ask your little self when you were 8, 9, I don't know. if you grew up and you had full say, whatever you want goes, who wouldn't put a slide in their office? That looks awesome. Now, it's corny because it's Dabo, but I would do that, except at the end of it, I wouldn't be sliding onto a mat. I'd be sliding into like a basket of mashed potatoes. You know what I mean?
Well,
that
Dabo
might get
was
old
like,
every
hey,
now and then.
Hey, it worked for Google. Why not Clemson?
Yeah, that now you made it douchey. Because I didn't think about it.
The thing, he's been doing it for years, though, where they run down the hill. He's got to be the first one down. He's always got to be out in front.
That's lame.
That's another thing, too. Coaches who run out with the team, like I know this is an Ole Miss podcast, so we're going to talk about Pete, but Pete's not like that. I'll be interested to see if he does that this year because he didn't do it in the playoffs.
Like Pete said, and he genuinely believes this, and he'll say it, quote, I don't think it matters who the hell runs the players out of the tunnel. He doesn't care about that. No. And it's a very welcome thing. All right, let's go to a couple of things in the chat. Then we're going to jump to this interesting thought exercise from one Ole Miss Muse on Twitter. Great follow on Twitter at Ole Miss Muse 1, and kind of gets us into what I wanted to talk about with Zach. At Hurston Williamson 603. Love you, Ben. Thanks, man. I would say great hair today, but you have a cap on. Have a great week. Same to you. Charlie asked, any update on Braden Pegues, JJ's cousin? Where you at, Ben? I'm right here, and I can't get an update, really. I just haven't heard anything in regard of connecting Ole Miss and Braden Pegues. What about you, Zach?
Nothing.
I wish I had more for you.
I'm being honest. I don't have anything.
All right, so I came across this on the Twitters, and I liked it. Ole Miss position groups ranked. Ole Miss is in its second full week of fall camp. John David Baker talked today. You can read all about that at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, affiliate on 3, a basket of mashed potatoes. I couldn't think of anything. I didn't want to say anything, gross, but then mashed potatoes, I don't know. But you can read all about that at the Ole Miss Spirit. John David Baker's media availability, the only one he'll get all year. That QR code on your screen is for the Ole Miss Spirit. A new member, sign up, $30 for a year. $30. That's $249 a month. This is how you can help us the most. That QR code right above Zach's head. If you haven't tried us out, please sign up at the Ole Miss Spirit, OMSpirit.com, OMSpirit.com. All right, so position tiers, before we jump into some other things. Tier 1, he had quarterback, running back, defensive line. Ole Miss is in its second week of fall camp practice. Tier 2, linebacker, wide receiver, cornerback. Tier 3, offensive line, tight end, and safety. Safety surprised me at 9. I would have put safety more like 5 or 6. If you had to do the tiers of Ole Miss position groups, would it start with quarterback? Because for me, I saw a few things differently. I went D-line, running back, then quarterback, or then linebacker. Number 4 is quarterback because I still have questions about the depth. Number 5, wide receiver, we agree. Number 6, cornerback. Number 7, safety. Number 8, tight end. And number 9, offensive line, because I don't know what I think about the offensive tackles. But I would put defensive line as the tier 1 position for Ole Miss. I'm becoming more and more bullish on it as Ole Miss practices. Not only did William Eccles say that he thinks last week, talking to us here on Talking Champions, that he thinks Blake Parshas could lead the SEC in sacks. But Centarian Perkins also talked about rushing the passer more, especially compared to last year when he was always exclusively a linebacker. They didn't really have any other choice but to make him a down-to-down linebacker. That's his future in football at the next level. He's going to be a primary linebacker. But because of Luke Farelli and Keaton Thomas, he's going to be allowed more pass rushing opportunities and could get closer to that 10.5 sack total as a sophomore, which tied for the team lead with Princely Umanmielen. I'm not saying he'll get there, but when I asked him the over-under at 7.5, when I put it at 7.5 for Centarian, he said, yeah, I'm taking the over, so I'm going to take it too. For you, how would you tier Ole Miss's football positions just from what you've seen so far and what you think about Ole Miss right here and now, Zachary?
I mean, I have no issue with tier 1. I think you could probably put that in, I don't know. I was going to say put it in cement, but that doesn't make any sense. You could write that one in pen. Like if you like, we'll go with like the bracket, verbiage where it's like your Sharpie, as was that John Rothstein says it. Yeah, quarterback, running back, 1-2 without a doubt. I mean, you could probably do 1A, 1B there. They're both preseason All-Americans. On 3 put out their preseason team this morning. Both of them are on it. I think that's well done by Chris Lowe. A lot of people are going to make a case for Arch Manning. I think Trinidad is, in my opinion, the runaway best returning quarterback in college football, and it's not even close. It's not saying that Arch can't be good, but I think Trinidad is the number one guy coming back. Kewan Lacey, right there. I have no issue with that. Defensive line, man. This group is, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think talking to people around the program, talking to Randall Joyner, I mean, he is probably as excited as he's ever been when talking about the defensive line group. They're deep, immensely talented. I think they're going to be some guys that surprise a lot of people. I think Blake Purchase is going to be a big-time guy for this defense. I think Jordan Renaud's going to flash. It's going to come in waves because they're so deep. So when Blake Purchase is going off in week 2, 3, 4, and then you got Maldonado pops up in week 8, 9, 10. I mean, they're so deep. They're so talented. I think William Eccles is the best defensive lineman Ole Miss has had in a very, very long time. I think
it's like having Walter Nolan for his entire career, except
pretty much, yeah. And
William,
I think he has a chance to be better than Walter
because he's done it more often. Like Walter was more proof. Like he hadn't quite become that yet, but he did. William's been that guy. And there's a question from @ATF521. Who do you think will be the top 3 for Ole Miss in sacks? Blake Purchase, I think, if I had to predict, would be in there. Don't forget last year, William Eccles and Cam Franklin both had 5 or more sacks. I'm not saying William Eccles is going to have 7.5, 10, but he wants double digits. And he's got competition because Cam Franklin can get to the quarterback, Blake Purchase, Suntarine Perkins. If I had to make a top 3, I'm going to pick 2 defensive end edges and also a defensive tackle because sometimes it just works out that way. Jonathan Maldonado could get in there, but I'm probably going for Suntarine Perkins, Blake Purchase, and like William Eccles. And it sounds kind of chalky because it is, but like I think that they'll have better usage than they even had year before, you know?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think Perkins is going to have a big year because of the depth and because of how good the defensive line is. I think that's only going to help him. I think Maldonado is someone that the staff really expects to make a difference. And I think Purchase is going to surprise a lot of people. He just got buried in the depth chart over at Oregon. It just kind of happens that way sometimes. And I think Renaud is somebody that he flashed for an Alabama defense where it's the same thing. He kind of got lost in the shuffle. You're probably going to have William Eccles and Cam Franklin fighting over sacks a good bit, which is a good thing for your defense.
Shout out Joe Judge with the beard, by the way. Swear I thought that was John Garrison for a second.
Yeah, for a second I didn't recognize him there. But yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have a loaded defensive line group. Tier 2, I'm probably going interior offensive line if I can break up the offensive line group there. I think right there in the middle with Delano Townsend, Bryson Sanders, and Patrick Kudish are as good as anybody in the league. And then after that, I would probably go corner. I think they've got some NFL-type corners. I truly believe that. I think they're going to be really good at corner. Jalen Braxton's going to be healthy. Tonio Kite, Jay Crawford. It's a deep room. And then I'm going to put wide receiver in there, Ben. I'm really bullish on this group. I know they're extremely confident. I think Deuce Alexander is going to be a real deal type guy. I think you're going to see him continue that number 1 legacy. I think Horatio Fields is going to turn a lot of heads. I think a lot of people are going to see just why he was pursued by so many in the portal. And then, if I can be a little biased here, I think Jonte Cook is going to be a dude. He was kind of one of those, you cover recruiting, you talk to guys for a long time, you watch all their film, you talk to people about them. He was one that I really wanted Ole Miss to get. Hell of a kid. Probably one of the better interviews I've ever done. Someone that is just as charismatic as any. But he was, you talk about going through the wilderness with Kentucky. I think it took Jonte a little bit to kind of get used to college. And I think getting out of Texas was good for him. I think it helped him. just to kind of, just kind of a reset. He had a lot of pressure on him. He played at DeSoto, a really good program. He had a lot of people pulling for him, and sometimes that can be great. Sometimes it can be bad. It's just a lot of added pressure when you've got so many people so close to you pulling for you, and it's a lot of pressure when you're playing at the University of Texas and you're from Texas. He did a lot of good things last year with Syracuse, and I think he's going to be someone that Ole Miss will count on a lot. And I think it's just going to open things up for other guys. You're not going to be able to double team some of these dudes. You're not going to be able to bracket some of these guys because they're going to have a Jonte Cook in the slot. You're going to have an Horatio Fields on the outside. I think Deuce Alexander is going to move around a lot. He's a dude that can really help you in a lot of areas, and I think that he's going to have a big year. So that'd be tier 2, and then tier 3, I'd probably put. And this isn't like tier 3 is the worst. It's just different. 1, 2, 3. I think safety is going to be a position that people are going to be really impressed with. I think
that's the biggest pushback I had for the whole list from Ole Miss Muse. Again, great follow on Twitter. Like, he had safety last, and I'm like, hold on now. I mean, you could take some issue with Jonel Aguero's ability to cover, but that's a better safety than any safety back there that Ole Miss had at free or strong last year. Kapita Gushkin did some good things, but like Sharif Denson and Jay Crawford and Jalen Braxton has positional versatility. Jalen said he's playing cornerback right now. It's him and Kite starting. Jay Crawford's going to start too. It doesn't matter who starts, but like I'm listing off depth options here. LaDarian Clardy, Dorian Barney, Nick Cole's still here. I mean, it's not like Nick Cole's gone anywhere. He's the one that was starting against Miami at free.
Yeah.
I just would push back hard against that. Edwin Joseph is healthy. They added 5 transfer defensive backs in the portal. They addressed it as much, if not more so, than pass rush. And I put safety at worst, like at the very top of tier 3 is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think they're gonna get a pretty decent ROI there. You add a lot of experience, and look, I mean, again, I've said it on this podcast before. I've probably written it at some point. If Kirby Smart thinks you can play defense. And Jonel Aguero played for Georgia. I think that speaks volumes.
That's a former safety. Kirby Smart be like if Sam Pittman thinks you can play offensive line, you can play offensive line.
Exactly. Same like Mario Cristobal, same thing with offensive line. Yeah, I think Ole Miss is going to get a lot out of the Florida kids, both Fields and Denson. I like the safety group. It's just, there are a lot of other groups that are ahead. Man, I kind of want to go back and if we can add, just because they get forgotten a good bit. I put special teams up there in tier 1.
Heck yeah.
I mean, Lucas Carnero's first team All-America. Oscar Bird's excellent.
What a weird thing for the Ole Miss internet to get mad about, by the way, seeing Kejuan get to like fielding punts in practice. Guys, Kejuan Lacey's not returning punts. Not happening.
Hey, and if he is, whatever.
Who cares?
I mean, Reggie Bush returned punts for SC back in the day. It worked out. True. If you think that that's a play that you can maximize, you're going to put your best guy back there.
Ole Miss defense holds Louisville over under 14 points on September 6th at Chaney Young, 70-13. Sorry to cut you off. You're saying under?
Yeah. Do you want to get into the hot take here?
Yes, give me the hot take. We got to get to Kevin Scarbinsky, and also give me the most pressing thing in Ole Miss recruiting. You have the floor completely.
I'm going
over on that, by the way. I have it like 38-17, but that's over.
Yeah, I mean, they might get a garbage touchdown, but I think, okay, so pressing for recruiting, basketball, transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss has got to get Duke Brennan. He is someone that played some big boy basketball at Villanova. I think Ole Miss needs the size. They need the rebounding. I think he is someone that can make that team much better in the front court. And I think it will free up some of the tweener, power forward, center types to play a little more in their position offensively. I think that's someone that you have to get if you're Ole Miss. I think right now it's Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I talked a little bit with some folks late last night, early this morning. I think that's where that one stands. I like Ole Miss's chances right now, barring Oklahoma coming in late with a huge offer. But I think that that's somebody that you need to add to your roster if you're going to be in the conversation playing in March, playing meaningful games in March. I did see our boy Joe Tipton. Tipton tipped me off. He sent me a tip. John Rothstein said that Micah Hanlington is pursuing a 5th year of eligibility. Played at Florida last year. NC State, Ole Miss, and Southern Cal are in the running there. 4 points, 6 rebounds last season for Florida. That's another one, man. If you can play for the Florida Gators in 2025, 2026, you can play basketball. But
bottom line is Ole Miss, Mojave King's not going to happen. Maybe he does, but like last I heard, that ain't happening. And if it doesn't happen, they got to add more. The Villanova forward would be 1. And when we last talked to Beard, he said they could get up to 15. So that would make sense. It could be Micah Hanlington. Hanlington. Got it.
7-footer. There's another rebounder for you.
Yeah. Well, Stefan Cisic is 7 foot, but I just when you talk about those tweeners, man, that's the one thing that stuck out to me at practice. I was like, where's the size and where's the shooting?
Hey, well, if you need some size, 7'1", 260 is a good place to start.
Yeah, that'll do. What's the hot take? Give me the hot take.
All right, the 2026 Ole Miss defense will be better than the 2014 Ole Miss defense.
Not 24 though.
No, better than both. 2014 and 2024.
That's your hot take? That's not scorching. That's not as scorching as I thought it'd be. William Eccles said that to me straight up. He said, I think we can be better than 2024. And that was the best modern era defense in Ole Miss history. So it's not a scorching hot take.
People are not talking about the defense enough. And
I do agree with that.
I don't understand. I talked to several people at media days and they were saying the same thing. They were like, hey man, I looked at the depth chart and like they're loaded.
That's why like my guy JD Pickell, love him to death, but what he cites when he leaves Ole Miss out the playoffs, or when he has something critical to say, or this, he always cites the defense, and mainly he talks about how the yards per carry average that Ole Miss had last year against, which was around five yards per carry. To which I say, yeah, and they got rid of 2 of their worst run defenders in that way. Now losing Princeton hurts because he was your sack leader, but like. They got better, and they got better at all 3 levels. Deeper at defensive line, linebackers, they actually play the run. And in the secondary, the criticism we have like Jonel Aguero is that, he can run fit and he can run defend. I wonder how well he can hold up as a back end, defensive back free safety center fielder. It doesn't wash. So you know what? I was waiting for something crazy like Deuce Knight will throw for more touchdowns than Trinidad Chambliss. That would have been scorching. That would be insane. Yeah, that would have been nuts. Instead, you brought up something that could absolutely happen. I mean, that's how they believe, or what they believe, over in that building. They believe they have that quality of talent.
Yeah, there was a stretch in that 2014 season where Ole Miss was giving up less than 2 touchdowns a game. They averaged 16 points allowed per game. That was first in FBS. Cinco Golson was just out of his mind that year. He had 10 picks.
Awesome.
Consensus All-American. He was a runner-up for the Nagurski. Cody Pruitt was first-team All-SEC and All-American. Kim Dichie was good. I know that there's been a lot of people upset with his career, but he was pretty dominant up front. I think this team has – you look at like those kind of playmakers there. I mean, I think Ole Miss has at least 3 corners that could be all SEC caliber. I think you've got at least 2 safeties who could be all SEC. And then looking at the defensive line, I mean, take your pick. I mean, it's as good as it's going to get, I think, in modern day Ole Miss football right there. I mean, I don't think Ole Miss has had a better defensive line group than they do this year. And then you mentioned at the top of the show, Keaton Thomas and Luke Farrelly, best 1-2 that Ole Miss has had at linebacker since what?
Entering the season.
Sure.
We still got to see him play. Keaton Thomas, like, he's more proven at this than Luke Farrelly, but the SEC is different than all of them.
Yeah, sure. I agree.
So I don't want to crown anybody until it's time to crown them.
Well, I mean,
that's all I'm saying.
Technically, this is a hot take segment, so we're doing some crowning here.
I was just letting you give me the takeoff before we have to roll over and let Brad talk to Kevin Scarbinsky of the Birmingham News. I like that take. Tomorrow, will you be back with me at 2? You want to come join me again?
Yeah, let's do it.
Me and Zach Berry back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time. For now, we'll say bye to him because we're going to go to break and come back. And Brad Logan's got Kevin Scarbinsky of the Birmingham News. Thank you for joining me today, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you, bud.
That's Zach Berry. This is Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. This QR code right here is for the Ole Miss Spirit. Join today as a new member. How can you help out this show, this podcast, us? There's only one way to do it, the Ole Miss Spirit. And right now we're running a promotion for fall camp where if you join us today and for a limited time only, you get a full year for $30. That's $249 a month. What is typically well over 100 is only 30 right now. It's the Ole Miss Spirit. That's how you can help me, Brad, and Zach Berry, the absolute best Ole Miss recruiting guy on the planet. You heard him talk about that basketball stuff. There's plenty of recruiting nuggets and updates daily at the Ole Miss Spirit. Again, scan this QR code. We'd love to have you. It's the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, an affiliate of On3. Now let's go to break. We'll come back. Kevin Scarbinsky will be joining Brad Logan. This is Talk of Champions.
Homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Ellen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Ellen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends. I'm Warrior Philip Hearn. Raising my family here in Mississippi, I've tried to teach my kids to help others. I learned that from my parents. And as a Mississippi lawyer, I want to help you too. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. You call, I'll answer. Let's get started. Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm today.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization. Member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
Start my weekend.
Own your day on the Network for Connected Living. There's more to see. Right now, get 4 free 5G phones and 4 lines for only $35 a month with a 5-year price lock. C-Spire. Customer inspired.
Welcome in Kevin Scarbinsky. If you've heard that name, you've probably read a lot of his columns in the Birmingham News. He's doing his own thing now. It has it on YouTube page at Scarbo Knows. And then, of course, that's kevinscarbinsky.com. Kevin, thanks for jumping on today. It's about football season.
Yes, it is. And thank goodness, Brad. It's good to be with you. All of this offseason talk about congressional legislation and lawsuits. I know I personally, just as a football fan, I cannot wait to see actual game action on the field so we can talk more about the sport we all love.
I want to start interesting in the state of Alabama. We went to SEC Media Day. As you heard, there wasn't a lot of talk about Alabama, a team that finished 11-4 last year. Kalen DeBoer, I thought, had a really good year, made the college football playoff. This year, not a lot of talk. You talk about Keelan Russell coming, or is the quarterback. What's it like in the state of Alabama, and kind of what is your thoughts about the Crimson Tide this year?
It is interesting, isn't it, that Alabama is not on the tip of everyone's tongue, and the people whose tongues it is on the tip of have been speaking with forked tongues, and they're just shredding Kalen DeBoer. I don't know where this Kalen DeBoer haters club has come from all of a sudden, but as you said, he did improve from year one to year two. Look, he inherited an impossible situation. You're following the greatest coach of all time. And even the greatest coach of all time was not at his greatest his last 3 years. And yet people seem to forget that. Now, it was an incremental decline the last several years under Saban, but they weren't quite the same. So many players left. I mean, the starting quarterback for Ohio State was at Alabama. He left when Nick Saban retired. The best defensive player in America, Caleb Downs, last year, he left when Nick Saban retired. So they lost a lot of talent, but I think DeBoer has done a fine job. And this is really the time we can judge him, because this is really his roster. It's going to be the first quarterback that he signed, he recruited, he signed, he developed from start to finish, whether it's Austin Mack, the transfer from Washington who came with DeBoer, or it's going to be Keelan Russell, as you mentioned, the uber-talented sophomore 5-star that everybody sees greatness in the future for. We still don't know. They haven't announced a starter. I think it won't be that long. Maybe a week or two, maybe get at least through one scrimmage. But, yeah, it is very unusual for someone like Nick Saban to be able to talk about Alabama flying under the radar. We haven't seen that in this state in a long, long, long time.
And it's always, you hear people say, you don't want to be the man that follows the man. You want to be the man that follows the man that follows the man. So Kalen DeBoer is the guy that followed the man. And then Nick Saban still all over the SEC, all over the SEC network, and so he's always kind of in the shadows. And as you know, he's at a lot of the games. Let's stay in the state of Alabama for a moment. Alex Golesh coming up from South Florida. A lot of Mississippi flavor. Deuce Knight, the talented quarterback out of George County High School in Mississippi, went to Auburn. Now he's transferred to Ole Miss. Former Ole Miss head coach Hugh Freeze was fired from there. Now Alex Golesh is at the helm. I had a chance, Kevin, when Ole Miss played Auburn in the Super Regional, I talked to a couple of people down there and said, look, man, you got the stadium, the fans, the pregame, postgame. You've got everything figured out from a marketing side. What do you guys need to do? And he just smiled and said, man, we need to win. What can Alex Golesh do to inject a little bit more enthusiasm into that program and get some W's this year?
Well, he's already injected some enthusiasm, just some of the different decisions he's made, some of the things he said. He's got an edge to him. Longtime SEC fans will get this reference. I see a little bit of Pat Dye in him. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got kind of an edge to him, which you have to have in that job. Look, it's one of the tougher jobs in the country. You're smack dab in the middle of Alabama and Georgia, and you got to play both of them every year. And they haven't beaten either one of them for a while. So it is a difficult job, but it's also a job that if it's done right, you can hit some pretty high notes. And pretty much every Auburn coach before the last two hit some high notes in their first or second year on campus. And that goes back to Dye. It was a long run of, Terry Bowden goes undefeated in his first year. Gus Malzahn plays for a national title in his first year. Gene Chizik wins a national title in his second year. It's amazing how Auburn coaches have been able to have early success. Now, a lot of them couldn't sustain it for very long, or they certainly didn't sustain it at that level. But one thing Golesh brings, and this is something Auburn has not seen since Gus Malzahn was there, is a competent offense. If Auburn is merely competent on offense, they will win some games this year that they have found ways to lose in recent years. And maybe the best recruit that Alex Golesh was able to not bring in but retain was DJ Durkin, the defensive coordinator. He did a nice job there the last couple of years. They will be good on defense. They've got some real playmakers, a couple of All-American caliber players on defense. So you expect them to be good on that side of the ball. They lost so many close games last year. Again, just get something solid out of your offense. just be able to score when you get in the red zone, be able to make explosive plays. And with Byron Brown, I mean, the dude led the country in total offense last year. Now, he did it in the American Conference at South Florida. He didn't do it at Auburn or in the SEC, but he's had 2 3,000-yard passing seasons in the last 3 years. In its entire history, Auburn has had 2 3,000-yard passing seasons.
When I think of Auburn, Kevin, I think of running the football and playing hard-nosed defense. And that's what Coach I really kind of hung his hat on, if you will. And if they can implement that back into Auburn football, I think the SEC as a whole is better when Auburn is better in football and winning. And so I'm personally hoping that happens. You look across the SEC, and I think it's always top-heavy with a couple of teams. This year it appears that it's Georgia, Texas, and kind of the other teams. I would put Alabama up there. What do you like about the top-heavy teams this year? And if there were a team that could win it all and win the conference and that sort of thing, where are you right now heading into the season?
I still don't know if there's that elite national championship team in the bunch. And I think that's the problem as problems go. It's not a terrible one, but the SEC is still very good top to bottom and certainly the upper half, but you just haven't had that great team that's been able to win a national title. I think there are a couple of teams that might be able to do that. I think certainly Texas has the talent with the people that Steve Sarkisian is bringing back. If Arch Manning can take another step forward, you know, we saw a ridiculous catch by Cam Coleman in a scrimmage that went viral on social media. We know how much talent he has at Auburn, but he wasn't really a difference maker. A lot of that was the head coach and the guy calling the plays and the people around him. So Texas, I think, is capable. I think Georgia's capable. I love Gunnar Stockton. And I always, I've been doing this a long time, Brad, been covering SEC football for a long time. When I look at Gunnar Stockton, I see Jeff Berger, the old Auburn quarterback from Cedartown, Georgia, back in the mid-'80s, just a tough as nails dude. I remember doing an interview with Jeff when he was playing at Auburn, and we rode around town in what he called his big-ass truck. And that back when you could do things like this. And we just spent some time getting to talk, getting to know each other. I was the Auburn beat writer for the Birmingham News at the time. And so I see a lot of that in Gunnar Stockton. I think the dude's a winner. But look, if you want to talk about the best quarterback in the league right now, it's Trinidad Chambliss. I don't think it's much of a debate. And I think Ole Miss also has the best quarterback running back combination when you throw in Kejuan Lacey as well. So I think they're going to be very dangerous on offense. They're going to have that big play capability. And as long as Pete Golding's there in whatever capacity he's there now, of course, as the head coach, they're going to play defense. So I think Ole Miss is right on the cusp of that championship contending group. I think Alabama has the chance to be there. Again, we'll see who the starting quarterback is, and we'll see if they can run the ball with any degree of efficiency, which they couldn't do last year. I think those teams are kind of in the mix. I would say separation beyond that. I'm not quite sold on Texas A&M, not quite sold on Oklahoma, not quite sold on LSU for a variety of reasons either.
If there's a team that would surprise you this year, Kevin, who do you think it would be? And not named, Ole Miss, Texas, Alabama, Georgia, maybe LSU. Who are some teams that you're kind of looking at this thing? Hey, they might sneak up and get somebody.
Well, this is not going to sound like an original answer because a number of people have said this, but Florida, I think, is dangerous because of the talent that John Summerall was able to retain, especially the skill talent. You look at their wideouts, look at a guy like Dallas Baker, and then the only guy that I would put in the same category right now as far as running backs in the SEC with Kejuan Lacey would be Jaden Baugh at Florida. That guy's a machine, and I think he's going to have a big, big year. The real question for them is quarterback. Who's going to win the job? How good are they going to be at that position? Is he going to be a caretaker or a playmaker? We'll see, but John Summerall's teams are going to play defense. I like Summerall. Of course, Auburn thought at one point he was the guy they were going to hire after they fired Freeze, and Summerall opted to go to Florida. When I look at him, he's got a little crazy behind the eyes, and I think that's a good thing. I think you need that in the SEC. I think you've got to have some of that toughness, some of that SOB in you. I see that in Pete Golding as well. I think you got to have a toughness to survive in this league, and Summerall certainly does. But I think Florida might have the roster that they can cause cause some trouble, maybe not win the league, but do some damage in the league.
In a lot of those teams, almost all of them, except Alabama, Ole Miss has on the schedule. I want to talk, kind of stick right there with Ole Miss and kind of look back at last year at the way the Rebels played. Down the stretch, Ole Miss obviously would advance to the Sugar Bowl, Fiesta Bowl, but had some big wins during the regular season and then had all of that kind of happen at the end of the year. What are your thoughts about how Pete Golding handled all that and kind of you just reflecting on the success that Ole Miss had last year?
Well, I was so impressed with the way Pete kept that thing together through all of that controversy, all of that upheaval. That took a special coach to be able to do that. Now, that's not the same as running a program day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. And we'll find out what kind of a head coach Pete will be in the SEC. But he did a masterful job of keeping that bunch together. Obviously, Trinidad Chambliss provided some incredible leadership. The game he played against Georgia in the playoff, it's one of the best big game performances by a quarterback in the SEC in a long time. It was so impressive. His improvisation, some of those plays straight out of the schoolyard. But the guy's a big-time playmaker. And then to go on and look, they were right there with Miami. I mean, they played Miami right to the last, obviously to the last throw in the end zone. Maybe it was pass interference, maybe it wasn't. But very impressed with, and I'm not a big Lane Kiffin fan. I'll be honest about that. Haven't been for a long time. Remember him well from his time at Alabama as the OC. But he did a good job building that program, building that team last year, creating a playoff team. But it was Pete Golding that took them over the top and got something done when they got to the playoff amidst all of the craziness and the chaos. So I'm excited to see what Ole Miss football under Pete Golding is going to look like.
We see highlights here. We had 6.5 minutes with the team, Kevin, the other day, and it was basically stretching and punt return. And so Pete Golding, the old Nick Saban way of practice by not allowing very many media members to see it, very, very much that we were able to see. But you kind of appreciate the fact that the guy kind of lives in a bubble. He learned from the best. You look at Pete Golding, I want to kind of stay there. Is there anybody that he kind of reminds you of, from what you've seen from the podium, the way his coaching philosophy has been so far from your time in covering college football?
Well, this might sound funny to you, especially given their off the field disagreement, but I see a little Dabo Swinney in him.
Yeah.
In that Dabo, look, whether you like Dabo or whether you really dislike Dabo, and there are people on both sides of the fence. I've known Dabo since he was a player at Alabama. He is legit. He is who he says he is. He is the person you see on camera. He's not putting on an act. And what we saw from Pete Golding at SEC Media Days, that's as genuine and real and raw as you're going to see from a head coach. And I wish more head coaches had that or felt that freedom to be that way. So many of them have become so corporate as they've made more and more money through the years. Pete Golding hasn't been spoiled by the privileged position that he holds. And I hope that doesn't change. Guys back in the day, I mean, think of the personalities. Well, when I was coming up in the SEC as a journalist, you had Johnny Majors and you had Pat Dye and Ray Perkins. And so many of those guys were just unique personalities, and they weren't afraid to show their personalities. They didn't try to be something they weren't. I think what hurts a lot of coaches is, especially a lot of Saban proteges, is they try to be Nick Saban. Look, he has rubbed off on everybody that's worked for him, usually in a positive way. But Pete Golding is not trying to be Nick Saban. He can't be Nick Saban. No one can be Nick Saban. There was only one of those. The more you can be yourself and incorporate what you learned from different influences you've had in your career, the better off you'll be. And so that's the real question. Can Pete have that kind of success, continue to have success, and maintain who he really is? So some years down the road, we're not watching documentaries on ESPN where he's talking about it. He's a changed man.
Yeah, I think he's been very upfront with us, and he told us at the Talk of Champions, we visited with him down in Jackson at the Mississippi Association of Coaches convention, and he said, Brad, I just don't think it's important who leads a team out of the tunnel. I think it's much more important by the players that are coming out of the tunnel, and much more the focus has been put back on the players versus, on the head coach himself. And this year, as you saw, Kevin, Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey both up for the Heisman Trophy. At least they're being pushed by the university, something we didn't see last year. Did you feel like he did a pretty good job of kind of navigating the difficult waters last year and then going 2-1 in the college football playoff last year, he being Pete Golding?
Well, I don't know that any of us can fully appreciate the degree of difficulty that went into that. The disruption that caused to that football team. And what's the one thing? A lot of things bother football coaches, but maybe nothing bothers them as much as distractions. You can't have more distraction or bigger distraction than Ole Miss faced last year going into the playoff with the whole Kiffin situation. So for him to keep that bunch together, it told me a lot about Pete Golding as a head coach. And I'll be honest, until that all unfolded, I don't know that I necessarily saw Pete as a head coach anytime soon. I thought he was very good at what he did as a defensive coordinator, but I didn't know he was going to be a head coach. Sometimes guys, the Peter principle applies, and they reach their level of incompetence, and they're really good as an assistant or a coordinator, but they're not cut out to be head coaches. And time will tell whether Pete is cut out to be a head coach in the SEC and be successful in the long term. But so impressed with how he handled all of that. And I don't know that anybody could have done a better job than he did in that situation.
Kewan Lacey, in your opinion, Kevin, the best returning running back in the country, or at least top 3 anyway?
Oh, he's on the short list.
Yeah.
I love Jaden Baugh at Florida. They're different backs. I don't think Jaden's quite as explosive as Kewan is. Kewan's obviously a threat to take it to distance anytime he touches it. And that told me something else about Pete Golding. Both those guys came back. They didn't have to come back. They could have gone pro. They could have gone to other colleges to play. They certainly had suitors. They had suitors that knew them very well in one particular case. But what did that say about what they think about Ole Miss and what they think about Pete Golding? And I love this story that Pete Golding told about sitting those two guys down and talking about their future and what it would look like if they left Ole Miss to go play, say, at another school, as opposed to what it would be if they stayed at Ole Miss. That's a great way. That's a great recruiting speech, example, story, because I think we've lost a lot of that. We've lost too much of that, where guys don't have a long vision. They have tunnel vision. And they see the now. They see the big money. They see what they can do now, what they can make now, what they can earn now. And they don't see 15, 20, 30 years down the road. And that's common for all young men, young women as well. But for Pete to be able to not only to share that story with them, but to have it resonate with them, again, that's what leaders do.
Visiting with Kevin Scarbinsky, years in the journalism industry around the Birmingham community, the Birmingham News. He's now has an incredible YouTube channel. We encourage you to check it out at Scarbo Knows, a really good follow on X and Facebook as well. Kevin, a couple more before we get out of here today. Big picture questions really about the Southeastern Conference. We heard from Commissioner Sankey. I'd love your thoughts on this. It doesn't feel like we're long for the SEC championship game in football. What are your thoughts on that game? And do you think a couple more years, and then I don't know that it's going to be around?
Sadly, I think you're probably right. In a vacuum, when it goes away, and it seems inevitable that it will, I'm going to miss it. I go back to the very first ones here in Birmingham at Legion Field, Alabama and Florida. I remember all the consternation when the SEC adopted that game, and people said, you'll never win another national championship. And they almost didn't that first year. Alabama was undefeated trying to get to the national championship game, and they had to go deep into the fourth quarter and have an Antonio Langham pick six to win it, to beat Florida. But it's been a special game through the years. We've seen so many special performances. Cam Newton had a huge game in 2010 en route to the Heisman in the national championship. That one stands out. Just so many great games and so many great memories that it set the SEC apart. The SEC set the tone there, and then other conferences followed, obviously, through the years, added their own championship games. But then you look at last year in the Big Ten, Indiana, it was a huge deal for Indiana. to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten, given the woeful history of Indiana football. But ultimately, if they'd lost the game, it wouldn't have changed much. They might have been number 2 in the playoff rankings rather than number 1, but it just doesn't have the resonance. It doesn't have the meaning that it once had. And as the playoff expands, and it seems inevitable it's going to expand, I'm not a big fan of that. I wish they'd stay at 12 for at least a little while longer to see how it works and get the format right, get the selection process right. But it seems inevitable they're going to jump to at least 16 in the very near future. And at some point, somebody has to have some common sense and say, how many games are we going to ask these guys to play? And the byproduct of that, the victim of that, is going to be the SEC championship game.
This is just pure speculation, but you have someone that has been around a while and has very much a grasp of the world of college football. Where are we as a consumer of SEC football going to be in 5 years? Is this where there's going to be a super conference? Is the SEC going to possibly become a much larger conference? Is this a deal to where they partner with the Big Ten and create its own particular football conference? Where do you think we're going to be in 5 years?
I hope that's not the case. I hope we still maintain some semblance of regionality. And of course, the Big Ten's blown that up. The ACC has blown that up with their expansion. I do give the SEC a great deal of credit, Greg Sankey in the lead of maintaining regionality as much as you possibly can while you expand to 16 teams. You know, every SEC school is in a contiguous state. You can drive from one SEC state to another, and you don't have to skip any non-SEC states on the way. I wish every conference had followed that approach, but obviously they didn't. But I think that's the point. You know, we're still seeing record ratings, huge attendance numbers. People still love college football. The passion, you're probably seeing it there. I know I'm seeing and feeling it here, that people cannot wait for the first full weekend. Everybody's excited about week 0, but the first full weekend, on that first weekend in September, there's so much anticipation and so much excitement about that because there's a genuine passion for the college game that I've never had for NFL football, but I've had it for a long time for college football, even though I didn't grow up in the South. So I think the way we lose that is if it becomes NFL light far more than it is now. If they do form a super conference, if they do decide, hey, let's take the top 35, 40, 48 teams, whatever the number might be, and let's break away and let's leave some others behind that have traditionally been rivals, traditionally been members of the same conferences. I think that's where you're going to lose a lot of the fans, or at least a significant portion of the fans that you have now. Because obviously, look, the Egg Bowl matters. The Iron Bowl matters. And it matters in years when both teams are competing for championships. It matters in years when neither team is competing for a championship. It matters in years when neither team is really all that good. But still something special manages to happen in games like those. I hope we don't lose that. And I hope that the people who are in charge of stewarding the sport, I hope they at least occasionally take a glance at what's good for the sport and not what is just good for their conference and their league.
He's Kevin Scarbinsky. You can catch him at kevinscarbinsky.com. Also, Scarbo Knows on his YouTube channel, and is a longtime journalist there in Birmingham and has written and still writes for the Birmingham News. Kevin, thanks very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Brad, I enjoyed it. Let's do it again sometime.
That was Brad Logan talking to Kevin Scarbinsky, a great wide-ranging discussion on SEC football in 2026. This has been Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. Brad is at Brad Logan TOC. We want you at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, affiliate of On 3. I've got to stop saying that person in the comments got in my head about it on Apple. Somebody said, Ben, you always say omspirit.com, affiliate of On 3, but at least you now remember it, right? At least you now remember it. Now, can I get you to sign up and join us? $30 is the promotion for a year right now. That's 75% off, $249 a month. This is how you can help me, Brad, Zach. My thanks to Zach for joining me today, Kevin Scarbinsky. How you can help this podcast, Talk of Champions, continue to grow. Scan this QR code or just go to the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com. Sign up as a new member. You'll get the best deal that you're going to possibly get right now because football is wide open. Football is here tomorrow. We don't get any media viewing or availability. Got John David Baker today. We'll talk a little bit about that. Do you take Venmo for subs? I don't know. I think maybe. I don't know. I have to get an answer for that. That's at Lafayette _Paterfamilias. I don't know. I really don't. Maybe. That's a question I haven't faced before, but give it a shot. If not, we'll figure something out. We just want you to join us at the Ole Miss Spirit. Tomorrow, we'll talk a little bit about the JDB press conference today. On Wednesday, Brad and I will both be live from after Ole Miss's next practice availability for us, and as well as a press conference and some availability with players. So we'll hook it up and we'll see you then every day. Remember, 2 p.m. Central Time. That's where you'll find us. Talk of Champions. More to come. Our thanks to everybody that joined us and all you in the chat, including Lafayette _Paterfamilias, my guy Dakota, all y'all in the Spirit Dynasty League in College Football 27. My Delaware Blue Hens are 4-0. A hard-fought 20-18 win over Vanderbilt, but hey, we got to win when no one thought we could with my quarterback, Nick Minicucci. And yes, I know it's really Minicucci because they've got like the audio button to play by his name on their official site. So Nick Minicucci and the Fighting Ben Garrett's Delaware Blue Hens are going all the way. You can read more about it at the Ole Miss Spirit. We'll keep you updated. More than that, this is where you'll get most informed about all things Ole Miss all the time, including basketball recruits that Zach talked about, some football stuff as well, transfer possibilities, blah, 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 blah. It's always there all the time. It's the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com. Zach and I'll be back tomorrow too. See you then, guys.